Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, testified against him, the first time in 5 years that they were face-to-face. I spoke to Michael Cohen yesterday in his first interview about his testimony and what it felt like to see Trump up close. A lot to talk to you about, but I want to begin with this moment. I mean, it's a deeply personal moment. First time in 5 years that you and Donald Trump are in the same room together, after being in the same room together every single day for almost your entire career, for so many years. You were sentenced to 3 years behind bars for what you would call dirty deeds that you committed on behalf of him. What was it like in that room, face to face?
I walked in, I sat in, because, everybody, witness approaching, and, I saw him sitting over the table. It wasn't until I took the seat by the judge's stand that I was confused on how I was going to be. And actually, I felt nothing. It was so weird that here I am sitting directly across from Donald Trump, and I felt absolutely nothing. And then directly over his left shoulder was his son, Eric, who also I maintained a relationship with, and I felt absolutely nothing. I looked at him, and I said to myself, boy, what a sad-looking, pathetic, deflated individual.
So you testified that it was up to you and then Chief Financial Officer Alan Weisselberg to make Trump's financial statements match what he wanted them to be, what he wanted his net worth to be. So you gave an example, Michael. You said you were called into Trump's office. You all remember that office in Trump Tower, and you walk in there, big desk in the corner, and you say, quote, he would look at the total assets and he would say, I'm actually not worth $4.5 billion. I'm really worth more like $6. And then you said you would go back. You would reverse engineer the value of his properties one by one to make it work. Did you make the case that Trump actually cooked the books, that he actually directed you to do that?
The answer is yes. I think that the Attorney General's office has more than enough information. In fact, they've already lost that point. It was already determined by Judge Engoron that the Trump organization committed fraud. The rest of the case right now is all about disgorgement. How much money is the Attorney General going to seek in terms of damages based upon the actions of Donald and the Trump organization, with a baseline of $250 million? I predict it's going to be more like over $600 million.
Well, Trump's lawyer, Michael, and you make a fair point about the judge, having already come to that conclusion, right? And this is a judge trial, not a jury trial. But Trump's lawyer did reference your congressional testimony in 2019. And of course, Michael, that's when you said you couldn't recall whether Trump or Weisselberg directed you to lie about Trump's net worth. So Trump's lawyer this week referenced that testimony in court. She asks you explicitly and directly, quote, Mr. Cohen, were you being honest in front of the Permanent Select Committee when you testified on February 28th, 2019? And you said no. She responded, so you lied under oath. Is that your testimony? And you said yes. But Michael, here's what I want to understand. Later on in that day, another one of Trump's lawyers asked you about that same testimony. And the quote was, so you're saying that this was truthful testimony, yes or no? Referring again to that 2019 testimony. And you said yes. So I'm trying to understand, Michael, what were you saying? That was it truthful? Was it not truthful?
Did he specifically say no? Donald never came out and said specifically, Michael and Alan, I want to inflate the numbers to be $6 billion instead of $5 billion. What he does, and I've stated this many times, I wrote about it in my books, Donald Trump speaks like a mob boss. What he does is he says, I'm actually not worth $5 billion. I'm worth $6. Why don't you guys go and figure it out? That's not specifically telling us. So the answer is my statement to Congress is actually accurate based upon the specific language that was asked of me. But what it didn't do, and it does it later on in the document, is it goes ahead and it talks about how he directed Alan Weisselberg and myself to go back to Alan's office and figure it out.
And you knew what that meant. So you're saying he didn't say, Michael, go inflate my assets. What he said was, hey, Michael, my net worth is $6 billion. Go figure it out. You're saying it's the same thing, but in terms of the actual wording used in the question, that's why you answered it differently?
Exactly. He directed us in order to do it. The only way, of course, to do it is to increase the value of the assets in that statement of financial condition. We did it. We then returned to his office, and it took a couple of days. We returned to his office with hand-marked up documents for his approval.
So he knew what you did. I'm saying he saw it. He saw the numbers,
of course,
the old numbers. He saw the new
not-
numbers. That was explicit.